All right, everybody, if you can hear me, we're going to get started tonight. And first, I just want to thank all of you for taking some time out and being with us. My name's John Lucas. I am the Interim Director of University Communications, and I'm also one of the founders of UW Social on campus, which is sort of our social media network. And probably the best part of my job is I get to tweet for UW-Madison at UW-Madison. So I just want to say I'm really excited to be here with the group that we have assembled. In the time that I've been here on campus, I think one of the things that's just the absolute best thing about UW is that everywhere in the world there are Badgers, and they're doing like really incredible things every day. And you can literally look in any city, any sector, and you can find people just doing fascinating work. So tonight we're really lucky and really thankful for the Bay Area Badgers who are here with a group to talk to us about A, what it's like to get a job in a great city like San Francisco, B, working in the tech industry, and then just being kind of a young alum, some of the things that they've learned in their time in San Francisco and out in the world, and some of the things that you might be able to do while you're still on campus to help kind of prepare you for that first job and getting out there. So they're also super kind to be here because it was 66 in San Francisco today. I don't know if it'll ever be 66 here again. So that's great of them to take some of their time to come out and be with us. So, and more just thank yous, the Wisconsin School of Business and Wisconsin BBA and hashtag UW Social for being our kind of event sponsors tonight. We're going to try to look at the hashtag, hashtag AskBAB for Bay Area Badgers for questions tonight as we go along. So if you have things you want to see or you want to live tweet along, go ahead and use that one. And I'm just going to run down here and introduce our panelists. Closest to me here, Siyu Mo, who is a 2005 graduate in computer science, originally from Malaysia. And he worked for a startup company named Zabni, if I say that right.
That's right.
Or I heard that Bill Gates said it as Zabni. Is that Zabni?
That too.
And it did work to improve your mobile contacts on your phone. And it was recently acquired by Yahoo. And he's a board member with the Bay Area Badgers. Next to him, Mariah Terhar, who is a 2009 graduate in Commerce and Rhetorical Science, and she's actually the president of the Bay Area Badgers. And her mom and dad are right out here in front. Give them a big shout out for them to be here. You know your son or daughter has made it when you're here seeing them speak at a career panel. So congratulations to you guys too. Mariah, since moving to the Bay Area, has worked for a boutique PR firm. And now she's at Facebook as an executive assistant. So thanks to her. Thanks also to Katie Wynn. Katie is kind of the driving force behind this event. She's a 2007 graduate with a degree in art history. She recently left Twitter to take a job as a brand strategist at Tumblr. And I'm eager to learn more about that and what that's all about myself. And next to her husband, Nate Wynn, who is a 2006 graduate in political science and international relations. And Nate works at the online publisher Say Media, which is a web and media advertising firm. And he runs a lot of the Microsoft ad business on many of the Say Media sites. So just a quick rundown on what we're going to do tonight in our format. First, I'm going to ask these guys to give just maybe a quick 3-minute career story and what it's been like for them so far. Then we're going to just do a couple questions that we had in mind. We may take a quick trivia break because Mariah's brought some sweet swag from the Bay Area Badgers. And then we're going to kick it out to you guys. We're going to take a mic around in the crowd and also try to watch the hashtag for your questions. So with that, let's get going. And I'm going to put CU on the spot to give the overview. How did you end up where you are today?
Thanks, John, for the introduction. If you asked me 10 years ago where I would be, I wouldn't have said that I would be in San Francisco because my girlfriend at the time wanted me to stay here. But deep down, I kind of knew that, to be successful, you sort of need to find an area, go to the place in which you can maximize your chances of doing things that you really want. And for me, knowing that I'm good at creative stuff, knowing that I'm good with technology, San Francisco was a natural choice, right? And I got pretty lucky because I started out at Intuit. That was my first job out of college. it was, I call it like the 2-year courtship, just like dating, right? I first talked to the Intuit recruiter, 2 years before I got the job, right? I got here from Malaysia, in Wisconsin, and someone said, hey, there's a career fair. And I said, well, I'll go. So I typed up a resume, I showed up, got over the shame of not having anything on my resume, and realized that, hey, now I know what this recruiter is looking for. And 2 years later, I met the same recruiter, and I got a job at Intuit, right? So got started that way, and then halfway through, realized that my heart is to help small businesses succeed. So like I said, I was at the right place at the right time. In the Bay Area, a lot of people doing startup, so I went ahead and tried to start a company. That didn't work out. So then I joined Zopni, through networking, right? Met this guy, Mark, who was my mentor at Intuit. So if all of you do not have a mentor today, look for one. Doesn't have to be a real person or whatnot. Could be, some character from a book or whatnot. So like a source of inspiration, right? But anyways, long story short, did that and luckily got acquired by Yahoo, and here I am talking here. That's it.
So to echo CU, if you had asked me even 5 years ago if I would be where I'm at now, I could not have even predicted anything like that. Or what I'm doing today. So when I graduated in '09, I joined the AmeriCorps program, and I moved out to Washington State, and I was working in an elementary school coordinating literacy programs. And I really enjoyed the AmeriCorps program, and so I took a second year in a leadership position up in Fairbanks, Alaska, which, believe it or not, there is a place colder than Madison, and it's there. So I was working in the mayor's office there for a year and coordinating my own group of volunteers, essentially, in their projects. And after that program ended, it was a year term at a time, I didn't know where to go next. I just had no idea. And I had my freshman year college roommate worked for Levi's in San Francisco, and you'll learn this. A lot of people that move to San Francisco, they get there, they sleep on someone's couch for 3 weeks, and then they never leave. And that's what I did. So I essentially got this tip actually from my dad, which was to go through temp agencies, through recruiting firms, which it doesn't hurt while you're doing your own job search to have someone else looking for you. And so I signed up with a few firms there, and one led me to a PR firm called the Brunswick Group. And they were interviewing for an executive assistant, and I didn't even know what that kind of person did. I had, absolutely no idea. And I said, I don't think I want to do that. And they hired me anyway. So I fell into that and really loved it. I supported the head of that firm, really fast-paced. It was a global international firm. And then an opportunity arose about, 7 months ago now, to be an assistant at Facebook. And I jumped at it for a lot of reasons, and it's a great place to work. And so I'm in the same role there now. I'm an assistant in the comms and policy department, and haven't looked back since.
All right, I'm gonna grab this. Yeah. All right, so I graduated in '07, and I actually moved to Los Angeles for a year prior to moving to San Francisco. And there's a group in LA called the Hollywood Badgers, and they would come to Wisconsin every year during the Wisconsin Film Festival, which was something that I was really involved with as a student. And they would do a Hollywood career panel during the film festival. I don't know if they still do that, but they should. It was super helpful. So as the founders of that would come back to Wisconsin, and they would talk about what it's like to work in Hollywood. And I was like, awesome, I'm gonna be a producer in LA probably like the next day that I graduate, so I'm gonna do that. And I met this woman, Leslie Feinstein, who is, created the group, and she had graduated, I think, like 5 or 6 years before. and she just had a really good Rolodex of people in LA, and she said, hey, just, email me like the week before you're gonna move, and I will submit your resume to everyone I know, and we'll get you an interview. And so I was like, oh, really? And I was like, because I'm like applying for jobs right now, and this was in, I think, March or April. And she was like, nope, do not apply for jobs right now. No one's gonna hire you. Like, if you want, just, literally just drive your car out or fly out or whatever, and I will get you an interview like the next day. And I was like, that's amazing. So I stayed through August 15th, when your lease runs out in Madison. And then the next week I drove to LA with Nate, who was living in DC, but he flew back to like drive me out. And I got a call from this agency in LA, a talent agency, when we were in Boulder, Colorado, I think it was, and he was like, hey, it's, Rod from HR, can you come in to interview on Monday? And I think it was like Friday. And I was like, yes. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I'm living in, West Hollywood or something. And I was like, I could totally come in on Monday. And so I was like, Nate, we need to get to LA by Monday at 10 a.m. because I have an interview now. And so, yeah. So I was like, yeah, totally. Went in for the interview. It was awesome. It was to work in the mailroom, but they were like, hey, you work in the mailroom for like, a month or less, or maybe like a couple months, and then you'll get an assistant position, and you can kind of pick and choose, like if you want to work in TV, film. They had a ton of different departments at this agency, and that's why I liked it. So. I ended up getting the job and starting like a week later, but I was at the time sharing a room with a girl that I knew from Wisconsin that had been living out there. So I was just kind of like squatting in her apartment, and she had this roommate that never came home from her boyfriend's house, so I just like stayed in her room. And so I got a job in the mailroom, and then 3 weeks later, there was an opening on a desk in the TV department. And I was like, yes, I interviewed for that, got it. And I started working with producers and production companies that worked a lot with unscripted media or unscripted, essentially, programming. So it was like American Idol, Project Runway, Undercover Boss was another show that we repped the producers on. And essentially what we did was these producers would come in and pitch networks ideas, and we would sort of package them up, and we would sell those to the networks and work out the contracts. So I learned a lot in that job, and I just met so many people that were doing all kinds of things. And it was a really good first job because everyone at that agency that was in my position was like a year out of school or had just graduated. So we were coming from all over the place. So I just met a lot of really good people that way. I eventually moved to San Francisco with Nate, and didn't have a job when I moved to San Francisco, and that was in like late 2008, 2009, so that was when no one was hiring anyone. So I started working for SF MoMA just as a volunteer, using my art history background and saying like, yeah, I'm gonna work for a museum now, and turns out you don't make any money if you work at a museum, and no one gets full-time jobs. So I was part-time, and I was working in the marketing department, and I started building out their social at the museum, and this was in 2009, so it was pretty early. But they wanted, their marketing director was like, yeah, just, do the Facebook page. Yeah, set up a Twitter. Like, she didn't know what it was, but I was like, yeah, I'll do that, totally. And, it was actually awesome because a ton of people reached out to us via Facebook and Twitter, like wanting to know stuff that was happening at the museum. And so that was just a really good learning experience because then I could like speak to that in an interview later when I did interview for a job at Twitter, and I said, I helped build out this museum's social platform, and we did a lot of really cool stuff. And another guy from SF MoMA who was in the marketing department actually worked at Twitter too, and I didn't realize it until we both were working there, but we had both worked at the museum together, so it was like there was that contact there, so it was someone that I had worked with previously. So that was great. And then I knew that I wanted to work at Twitter when I was working at this gaming company called GameSpot. That was like in between when I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do the museum, you know, wasn't paying me. So I was like, I need to get a job. I used a lot of people that Nate knew to help get me a job in like ad sales, which is what, you know, I'm still currently doing. But there's so many jobs in San Francisco that are ad sales jobs. So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely do this and just see where it goes. And people that I knew from LA were working at Twitter. There's a guy that I think maybe John knows, this guy Alex, who's a UW grad that works for Twitter Chicago, that I knew, and he was in San Francisco for a conference, and he's like, hey, you want to get coffee? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And then I met him, and I was like, how do I work for Twitter? What do I need to do? And he was like, actually, we're like growing right now. This was in 2011. And he said, yeah, we're definitely hiring. Like, I was like, awesome. I just gave him my resume. He submitted it directly. I got an interview like the next day, you know, phone interview. And like a week later, I was like working at Twitter. It was kind of crazy. So it just was like total right place, right time. And then, so, you know, for the past couple years, I've been at Twitter, and it was a really good learning experience. I got to see, you know, I started when there was 400 people. There's now 1,600 people working there. So they grew in a couple years just super fast. And I just wanted to go back to working at a smaller company again, because I just feel like for me personally right now, career-wise, like it's a good place for me to be visible to executives is at like a smaller place and not like a huge, huge place. So I saw that Tumblr, which doesn't have an office in San Francisco, is looking to grow in San Francisco. They're building out a team there. I reached out, applied for this job just on the website or through LinkedIn, I think, and you know, got an interview, went through the whole thing. It was a really long interview process with them, actually, and I started 2 weeks ago now at Tumblr. So I just had training in New York this week there. So I'm new, but it's really exciting, and you know, Tumblr now has 200 people. So to go from 1,600 to 200 is such a huge difference, but it feels really good. And yesterday I got to have a sit down with our CEO, David Karp, who's 27. And it was just like, that's something that would never happen at Twitter, right? Because they're just gigantic. And like you see the CEO walk by now and you're like, whoa, like you can't talk to him, right? Because he's like in the corner office somewhere. So I feel good about that. So that's that's long, I guess, but that's my story, sorry.
Yeah, I'm Nate. My story, I think you're seeing kind of a lot of unconventional backgrounds. I know it sounds like probably a lot of you guys are business students. The story with a lot of people in San Francisco is that, you know, I think we kind of bootstrap ourselves because there's a lot of roles that I'm not sure are being taught for. You know, the ad space is changing so fast. I think, you know, the executives at our company are still trying to keep up with what you guys know and kind of do on an everyday basis. I think my first foray into San Francisco was completely bombing an interview with Google when I was a senior in college in 2006. I'd come out and didn't really know enough about, I think, what I wanted to do with my career. But I came to San Francisco and I saw that company and I was like, this doesn't feel like work. You know, like people are sitting on bouncy balls and there's dogs running around. And so then I came back to Madison and I was really sad and I didn't get that job. So my first role was I was assistant to Senator Russ Feingold in DC. I studied politics here, did that for a year. It was a great experience, but I think that memory of what was happening in the private sector was kind of always on my mind and really jogged or, you know, taught me that was where I wanted to go. So ultimately, I got started at CBS Sports, which is part of the interactive side of CBS Corporation. There's an amazing account. I started as an account coordinator in San Francisco. There's an amazing program there that hires probably 24 to 30 kids a year that know nothing about online advertising and just come from backgrounds like yours. They're sharp. They know more about technology than half the executives do at the company, and got started making very little money, but it was like the best crash course I think you could ever have to the ad business side of San Francisco. I left that job, went to a startup called Video Egg, The company has pivoted a few times. I've been there for about 4 years and now run all of our major ad agency relationships in the Northwest. Say's a publishing company that I think is taking on people like Hearst, Time Inc., Condé Nast, and is really doing the digital version of what those guys have done for many years, and it's doing very well. So I think afterwards, if you guys want to talk about working at ad agencies, working in ad sales, working at the publishing companies that are going on that exist in San Francisco, I'd be happy to help with that.
Awesome. Well, I heard CU say something about how a mentor here was pretty influential for him. I'm curious, the rest of you guys, for everybody's that's out here thinking about how they want an awesome job too, what should they be doing right now to sort of get themselves ready for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, along with CU, like Leslie, that girl that I met with the Hollywood Badgers, like she is the person that got me, at least an interview. And so I kind of look to her as my mentor. Like, I know when I first moved to LA, I met her for breakfast and she just kind of told me a couple things about like what it's like working and like what to not do, what to do. And then just about like living in San Francisco. So that was, I met her very late when I was, about to graduate, but I still look to her as a mentor, I think, when I was first working.
My experience with Madison was it was a really big school. And I think I loved it for a lot of reasons, but it was also hard for me, I think, to make maybe connections at a professor level or something like that to find mentorship early. And I had to seek that a little later in my career. And I think, to Steve's point, it's invaluable, I think, unless this, at least the industry I work in, my parents didn't work in it, my older brother didn't work in it. There was really no one to guide me and kind of tell me that, hey, I think you've been in this role too long, or this is a company that you might want to look at. And I think it's not too early to start finding people that, if they aren't professors, but reaching out to folks on LinkedIn that just might have a cool job and that you can build a rapport with to guide you guys, because I'm sure you're graduating soon and there's a lot of decisions you're trying to make that people don't know about.
I think based off of that, and Nate and I were actually talking about this earlier in the airport, but when I was here for a leadership conference back in October, the CEO of YouTube spoke, and he said, if I get an email from a Badger, I answer it. Like, they think, probably only 2 people will do that per year because they think I'm inaccessible because this is who I am. But within this network, there's so much knowledge and willingness to connect to other Badgers. So I think, looking up influential Badgers that may be at companies, that you've been looking at, and just taking a shot, like more often than not, we were saying if we were ever to receive, a note from a Badger, we will refer you everywhere and anywhere that we can, because we know, where we come from or where you guys came from. You're humble, you're smart, you're hardworking, and that's what these companies are looking for as well.
So just a few more comments about the idea of mentorship, right? It is not necessarily like a teacher to student relationship. The technology is changing so fast, the business landscape is changing so fast. The mentor is learning from you as well, right? So when you're looking for a mentor, think about what you can offer to that person, right? My mentor, what I offered to my mentor was I was really good at building, mobile phone apps. He needed someone to do that, right? And we exchanged ideas. Turns out that, well, you know what? Let's join this company together, right? So when you think about mentorship, it doesn't have to be someone who is like a CEO or VP, director, or all those titles, right? It could just be someone who has a lot of experience from before, someone that whom you trust, someone who can be your sounding board, and then someone that you can help as well, so that you two can grow together. Yeah.
John, I want to just add to that. I don't want to open myself up too much, but I can honestly say I've responded to every single UW grad that's reached out to me on LinkedIn that has asked for help. There haven't been a ton, and if you guys all do it tomorrow, it might take a little while. But I honestly think people aren't doing that enough, and this is a way to cut through. The majority of you guys here, I think, are looking for jobs and are looking for a next city that's going to be a right fit and a company that's going to be a fit for you. And I think when you're sitting, in your house and you're clicking on the jobs tab at Facebook, right? And they're like, oh, there's this cool, junior position and I'd be a great fit for it. Like, the ability that Mariah has to cut through that stack of resumes and just get it on someone's desk is invaluable, and take advantage of that, and that's gonna help you guys out.
Yeah, literally, those things are so filtered that no one ever sees you. They run like a search query on different words, and that's how they like find you out. So I think, at least at Twitter, I know that, 40% of the people that work there are referrals. So the only thing that those huge companies that need to hire quickly are looking for, if someone can refer them, their HR people like can do way less work, and then they know, oh, Mariah already vetted that person, like, great, Katie knows that person. Even if I don't, like, they're at least gonna look at your resume and they're gonna say, okay, let's just like call this person and talk to them like a human being.
So for those of you out there right now who don't really have a lot of network, a lot of people that don't feel bad, right? It is not too late to start today or tonight, right? So you still have time. Just work on it, right? Find an area that you like, volunteer or start a business, or sort of like do something that's in that area just to try to get your foot in the door, and then your network will come to you, right? Because you're offering a value. When you offer value, someone's gonna want to talk to you. Someone's gonna help you out because you helped them before.
So between you guys, I assume that you've all had a lot of interview experience, and like you said, Nate, not all of them have gone perfectly. So I mean, what's that like? I mean, how do you do well in one of those? What don't you do in one of those, especially in the tech sector? Or do you guys have any wisdom that you've gleaned from those?
Yeah, I would. The first thing I would say is, if you are interviewing at a tech company, you better know the product so well, because I know from my experience in interviewing people that I've interviewed people who just come in and they're like, oh my God, I love Twitter, like I just like want to work here, like you get free lunch, and I was like, okay, let's go through, like, walk me through the product, and they can't, and I'm like, I cannot talk to you because there's 10 other people that know the product that much better. And in tech, that's such like an important thing, because if they don't have to teach someone the product, then you're already at the top of the stack. So if you can speak, well about whatever the product is that you're interviewing for or that you're going to be working on, then you'll look really good against the other candidates that are interviewing.
Is anyone in the humanities school here? Are you guys all business students, or some? Awesome, cool. Thanks for coming
Art
out.
history majors? No?
That's
No? Okay.
Close call.
Close. Put your hand down. That's fine.
What I will say is, it's your work experience and stuff is going to be kind of elementary at this point. Maybe you've done some internships. Something I felt, and I took a lot of history classes, took a lot of politics classes here, and I learned how to be a very good individual contributor. I think Madison's great in teaching you how to think for yourself and write a ton of papers. But something and this is it's kind of on me for not using the university and maybe joining some clubs, teams, or taking just a few classes in the business school that were going to teach more team-based learning or doing team-based projects. Because I think, at least on the advertising side, every job I've had has been with a group of between 4 to 10 people, and really we're looking for somebody that can plug into that team dynamic. And you can be the smartest person in the world, but that was kind of the Google story, is I just really was not prepared to jump in and know how to contribute in that sense. So I would, even if it's playing intramural hockey, which I did here, I mean, that's a great story, and just talking about how you worked well with others, because you can have the best resume, but like, look, if you're 22 years old and are coming in at a junior level, like, people just want someone that they know is going to be a culture fit and know is going to play well with others. And the team story is really, I think, helpful for you guys to polish up in that regard.
I think these are two minor things, but your resume should not be over a page long. I don't know if anyone else, I mean, you guys might have different, but if I see a resume that's 2 pages, it's too much. Well, CU has a lot of experience, so. And the other thing is,
When you're as beefy as CU,
ask questions. I mean, it's something small, and I know it's in professional interviewing tips, but when I've interviewed people, it doesn't happen enough. And I think if it shows that you're doing your research, and if you have good questions, because it is a two-way street, you are interviewing them as well. Like so you said, for a mentor, I mean, you want to make sure it's a good fit for you, and that shows that you're really giving a lot of thought into whatever role that you're looking for.
Okay, so, oh, go ahead. Well, there's a few things I want to just cover pretty quickly, which is if you're looking to work in a tech company, right, you should really learn about the technology. We live in an era today in which learning is so easy online and at home. It is unacceptable if you do not do that when you go interview at a technology company. Most people are not looking for the best engineer and whatnot because there are a lot of jobs that are not engineering. But what they are looking for are people who are passionate, who show that they can learn even though school did not cover some of the technologies, right? So go to websites like Code Academy, go to Coursera.org. Just spend some time there, see what intrigues you, and sort of like learn those things so that you have something to contribute right away. And then the other thing is when you are interviewing, you need to have the right mindset, right? If you don't have the right mindset, you won't be able to answer the question because a lot of the questions requires you to show that you can think, you can work through the problem, that you treat the interviewer as your partner instead of someone who is judging you. So you need to go in the right mindset. You need to show intellectual humility, right? How many of you guys actually have seen the blog from Google recently in the past couple of weeks about how they stopped looking into GPA and where you go to school before they hire, right? Yeah. Didn't they talk about there's no correlation at all about how well you did in school versus how well you can contribute in a company, right? So the main point is this, right? If you go in with the right mindset, you're prepared, and then you treat an interviewer with respect and as partner, right? And then you show intellectual humility. As an entry-level job, I'm not sure how much more the interviewer can ask for. Right, and shower before that as well.
To echo that, I think on the business side, we've been, to Sia's point about just knowing the technology, I think I've interviewed a ton of people for sales roles and marketing roles, and we've been far less concerned. Look, it's great that you're studying advertising or you're studying marketing or something, but we've been far less concerned, I think, with the courses you've taken and the major you have, but in understanding what we do as a company. So make sure, that you're not just leaning, I think, on your coursework, but you're doing that homework too and really understand that, because you'd be surprised how few people do that extra 30 minutes of homework, and those are the people that I hire.
And yeah, just another thing about interviewing, sorry, in San Francisco particularly, that I've noticed is, it's a very different city than Chicago, than New York, than LA. Like when I interviewed for that job in LA, I was wearing a Banana Republic suit that I bought at the outlet mall. I was looking real good, super professional. Everyone's in suits. If you wear a suit in San Francisco, you will get laughed at. Do not bring your suit to an interview in San Francisco because you will not get the job. I'm not joking. If people would come into Twitter in a suit, we'd be like, though they're definitely not working here.
So this is, I have an example.
Because it's not a culture fit. It's a culture thing. So yeah, see you. Yeah.
So yeah, I think you have one ally in this situation, right? And that is the recruiter. How many of you guys know how recruiters are paid? They pay by hitting a quota of how many people they bring in, and then whoever that signed the contract to start working. Some of the recruiters get 10% of your first year's salary, right? So your recruiter has your interest in mind, right? So anything that's unclear, and if you don't know about it, like suit, for example, ask the recruiter.
Yeah.
All right, this is solid gold advice. We want to go and open it up to you guys, but first, you guys want to do a quick trivia question or two for the gang?
Oh yeah, okay, so we have a couple Bay Area trivia questions, and then we're gonna basketball style throw some shirts into the audience. First question is, what is Marissa Mayer, or where is Marissa Mayer from, CEO of Yahoo? What's her hometown? Anyone? Raise your hand or just shout it. There it is, Wausau, Wisconsin, CEO of Yahoo. Yep.
I'll bring it to you. Don't worry.
Throw that.
You keep
Throw that. Okay.
Facebook just spent an absurd amount of money on which company last 2 weeks ago? Who said?
There you go.
I didn't even see it.
Who said it?
Right there, right there.
Own up to winning the T-shirt.
Shout it.
All right, right
That
here.
guy.
All right.
I'm gonna try this.
San Francisco, sure.
That was a bad throw.
Okay.
Wisconsin quarterback.
What were we saying? The last one. Okay, this is very nerdy San Francisco trivia, and if you get this, we're gonna be really proud of you. What color is the Golden Gate Bridge?
What is the paint?
What
What is the actual
orange?
paint color? It has a specific name.
Green.
No.
Okay, you all don't
Wrong,
live in San
wrong.
Francisco. It was International Orange. There's a-
International Orange is the paint. If you ever take a double-decker bus tour, you'll learn that. That's okay. That was a tough one. All
right, we'll do another.
Okay, we'll do another round before the end. I want to get this out to you guys. So who wants to start out with a Q&A from the crowd here? Start up out over here. Can you say your name and your major and where you're from? Sure. Thanks.
My name's Kate. Oh, is it on?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
The lasting. My name's Caitlin Tierney. I'm from the Twin Cities, and I'm a marketing major with a digital studies certificate. And my question was kind of bouncing off the GPA thing you guys just mentioned. So what do you find most valuable about a liberal arts degree from you guys are badgers, so you graduated from here and you understand like how valuable those 4 years were. But as people that are hiring and looking for people to come into their company, why do you think having a liberal arts 4-year degree is important? And do you think it's important?
I'll take this. I'll try to address it honestly. I think, first off, getting through college is important. And I think if you're not studying something that you're into or you're passionate about, like, it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. I was in school kind of at the start of the Iraq War. Things were very political around here, and I think I followed my interests, right? So that was one of the reasons. Two, I think you'll be surprised at the people you meet and that you interview with that will also have a background like that. And when you do make that connection, they're very strong. When I got my first job at SAY, the entire interview was about working on Capitol Hill. And it had nothing to do with media because the woman that I worked with used to work on political campaigns in college, right? So there's finding common ground. And I think three, on the startup side of the business, and I know you guys work at, LCU has kind of done both, but at much more traditional companies, I know that what I took away probably most, and this is easier to do in hindsight than maybe right in it, of like what kind of tangible things am I learning right now, but I think you're really taught to have an opinion on something, right? Taking the history of foreign policy or something and trying to make your own assessment of Kennedy's decisions, the Bay of Pigs, right? Like something like that seems so not related to what's going on in business, and yet you walk into a startup that I did at VideoEgg, and there's an amazing realization that the CEO might not have all the ideas and doesn't have all the right answers. And so we're asking pretty much everyone there to think outside what we've told you to do and kind of figure out how this company can make money. And there are certain people that can do that, and there are other people that I think are much better to plug in and sort of be part of the machinery. And to me, that was a liberal arts background that allowed me to rise up very quickly because I wasn't afraid to say, I don't know, in a meeting that I thought we were doing something incorrectly.
To go off that quickly, I was an integrated liberal studies certificate here, so like even broader, I guess, than like ComArts. And the things that I learned about in there, kind of what Nate was saying, like teaching you how to think, not just how to answer a question, comes in handy. I mean, it's just so invaluable. And the things that I got out of ILS or an integrated liberal studies degree that were on my resume, those were the questions that they asked me about versus my other experience.
So coming from the startup world, when you don't have enough money, right? So you can only hire one person instead of two. You're really looking for, someone who is just willing to, do things without you telling them what to do every single time. Just someone who has a can-do attitude. Obviously someone's went through college, right? So if you can show that you have problem-solving skill at the interview, depending on the job, very likely that, you might hear back from them, right? This is just sort of like a side comment on this, which is, if we are always just, looking for people who just follow orders and whatnot, right? That's not the economy today anymore, right? The economy has changed. That's for China, right? They can manufacture all the stuff, right? The way that we'll win in the future is we'll innovate, right? And the way we'll win in the future is we'll be creative, right? We'll have to work together as a team, right? So that's why in a startup, diverse background is actually valued, right? If I just hire 3 people, all of them from MIT, you know what? That startup's probably not going to work, right? So don't sort of like undersell yourself in the sense of like, you have a liberal arts degree and whatnot. Yeah, own that and
Yeah.
figure out how you can actually provide value.
I would say in an interview, think about the coolest thing about yourself and make sure you tell them that. Because I will tell you, these are the 3 questions that I've been asked literally in every interview. First question, so tell me about yourself. First question. Okay, so you better have something really cool to talk to, that's cool about you. So that someone's like, dude, I want to hang out with this person at a happy hour. Like, that person would be so fun to have at this company. Second question, what do you do on the weekends? And that is a question that's like, what do you do when you're not working? Because I want to know, like, if you have cool hobbies, like, I want to know what you're into. I want to know things that are like, that aren't listed here in bullet points. So like, think about that when you go in and you're talking to somebody, is like, what makes you awesome and like, why should you work there? Because that's like gonna get you further, I think, than someone else who's talking about how they're really good at Excel.
My last company had a name for this, and they called it the train test. And people would come out of an interview and they'd say, did she pass the train test? And that means, can you sit next to this person on for 3 hours on the train and not get bored? And if the answer was no, then we didn't hire them. So it's so important.
Great question. Over here. Okay, go ahead.
Well, for recording.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
here.
recording maybe.
Recording.
Okay. Name?
Yeah, your major. Where are you from?
I'm Jonah. I now live in San Francisco. I'm majoring in real estate. And something that me and my friends always kind of complain about is the grading system here. That an AB is a 3.5, and I found myself often getting like a 91 in a class, and like to me it worsens my GPA. Yeah. As opposed to, if you're getting an 88, then sometimes it'll help you. So do people that are interviewing and looking at, I know GPA is not everything, but when they see those grades, do they like, unless they went to Wisconsin, do they realize?
No one cares about your GPA unless you're applying to grad school.
Grad school.
You don't have a 1.5, right?
If you have like a 4.0,
there's a limit. You can't-
maybe you could put that on there, but I never put my GPA on. I had this one manager that went to Harvard Business School, and I had him, just review my resume just because I wanted his thoughts. And he was like, oh, your GPA is not on here. And I was like, dude, why would I put my GPA on here? And that's apparently something you do at Harvard. And that's why, like, whatever, those guys go to Harvard and, like, all the cool people don't. But, like, no one is going to care about your GPA unless, like, it was something crazy. And honestly, if someone does put their GPA, I'm kind of like, that person kind of seems like a douchebag. Like, I don't.
So,
Like, it's just one of those things where you're like, I don't know, dude. I really don't think they're going to be cool.
So not to belittle the problem, right? So there are definitely
that's
people
me,
out there
sorry. Yeah,
who cares about that. But there are ways for you to go around that, right?
I think there's probably a few schools of thought, but it's one way to immediately allow someone to quantify you, and I think you're using that resume to tell a really big story about you in ways that it's gonna offer somebody a chance to ask you good questions, right, about yourself. And like the minute you put a stamp and a number, it's something that's so easy to cling to because it's the one way I can judge you, and that would be
Yeah, totally. It's super judgy. if someone puts like a 3.4 on their resume, but then I'm like, well, I mean, this person has like a 3.8. They're clearly better.
Jonah,
That's
what's
like
your GPA?
automatically what you think, you know. It's
What's your GPA?
What's your GPA?
How come every single job application asks for your GPA then?
They do?
Every single time you
Really?
apply for an internship online. You have to
Oh,
sign
business
it.
school. Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Well, it's not
I
even-
mean, yeah, they're just,
You don't
it's,
apply
okay, that's, at that point, that's when you find that person on LinkedIn, you message them, and you say, like, get me in, because they're using that GPA to, like, go through and just auto-rank people. But you could be smarter than that, and you can find that person on LinkedIn, and you can message them and be like, dude, can you put my resume on top of this pile? And they would be like, yeah.
And a GPA is not something you can change right away, right? So you might as well just own up to it, right? When you
Yeah.
talk to people at a career fair, just say like, hey, I don't have the best GPA. I mean, I really recommended someone on an on-site interview, even though like the company I was working at, Intuit, requires like a 3.0 and above. I recommended someone for an on-site interview because I think he would be successful, right? So I'm putting my reputation on the line when I'm recommending someone, right? And it is your job to sort of impress that person, to see you more than just a number, whichever the number is.
How about one in the back? Herschel.
Hi, is this on? I can't tell. Hi, I'm Herschel, junior, majoring in economics and strategic communications. The question I have is, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit. Right now, it seems like a lot of finding a job in San Francisco is finding someone and asking them to get you in at a company. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to like the etiquette of how you do that, especially if you don't know this person prior to asking for the job, or if you're reaching out to them online versus in person.
Yeah, so there's been a couple people. So I run the LinkedIn account for Bay Area Badgers. So I get all the emails, that people write into that account and they say, hey, just moved, looking for, XYZ. It could be, it really could be anything. It doesn't have to be tech specific. But yeah, if you're reaching out, and I've done this too, like if I'm reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, it should be just super short. I don't want to see a cover letter from somebody because, I'm not going to read that. So like it should just be a paragraph or less and just say, hey, I'm Katie, I'm graduating. I'm really interested in this company because I think what you're doing is awesome in, this. And, I would love to just, maybe have the chance to like talk to you about it. I'm interested in this position with a link to like the job opening maybe that you're looking at. Would you be, willing to chat with me, or like, could you put me in touch with the right person who is hiring for that position? Just keep it really short. And usually that shorter messages are easier for me to respond to, or they're easier for any of us to respond to, and just be like, dude, totally, like, talk to this person, or like, yeah, let's give me a call tomorrow night and we can chat for like 10 minutes.
Herschel, I would add that a specific ask, I think, is very, very important. I still network all the time. I think that you find a lot of people in Silicon Valley are moving jobs every few years, right? It's a place that people do move around. Sometimes I'll just ask if I can pick somebody's brain about how they got into a certain role, or connecting two dots between jobs that I didn't understand because I was trying to make that type of transition. And I think if you can make something very specific and say, you were in sales, how did you get into product, or something like that, that's probably a really important story that somebody worked really hard at to make that transition, and that's going to foster a better connection.
Also, off of that, creating like a 2-sentence statement of your interest. I mean, like in layman's terms, make it interesting, but to the point about what you're looking for, so that even if I don't know how to help you, I can pass you on to someone else who might know how. And then that statement becomes like your request, I guess, to not only my network, but then that person's network. So the more polished that is from the beginning, is really important. And also, if you're at the point where you're going to give me a resume, it should be flawless. Like, this has happened before where someone will pass on a resume to me that I'm going to refer to someone else, and if I look at it and there's mistakes on there, I can't do that, because like CU said, it's my reputation on the line. So just going through again and again and again and checking that stuff is the most important thing.
Was that my resume?
No.
Okay, so I think that's an important mindset thing here that I want to talk about, right? Which is, you don't network to get a job, right? You network because you want to network. You network because it's valuable, right? Networking, it's one way for you to get the job, right? So don't just start networking like tonight, you know, and spend the next 2 months just connecting with everyone. You see, there's a fine difference, right? Like you just need to be available, be valuable, network. And what's your name again, by the way? Herschel.
Herschel.
Herschel? Okay, Herschel, right? How many best friends do you have? 2 close friends, 3 close friends?
Yeah, 2. Yeah. 2, sure.
All right, so 2 close friends, right? Hopefully your parents are still around, right?
Yeah.
So that's 4 people. And then
My parents are my best friends. Those are
no, but that's an important point here, which is the important point is this, which is your parents are also your connections, right? Your parents know people, right? As uncool as they sound or who they are, they know a lot of people that might be able to help you out. Connect with them, and then 2 of your best friends probably have cousins, or you know, I mean, no joke, because how many of you have looked at the list of people that you know? I mean, I'm not asking you to do like hot or not and judging which one you want to connect, but I just want you to realize that you already have a valuable network, right? Even though most of your friends right now don't have a job, they know someone who does, right? And then those are the ones that can help you out, right? So I really do not believe that if you come here today, you probably have a good network already. I'm willing to bet, you know, a burger on that.
Solid advice. Another one up here. Cut that through here.
Hi, I'm Sarah Vinson, and I'm studying Stratcom and sociology here. I'm a senior from this area, really little town. And you guys are talking a lot about like networking, and then you found a company, and then you found the job in the company, or you found this company, and then you found someone at that, and then you found a job. But a lot of the things that are online, I get very overwhelmed when I look for the Bay Area because it's so many different types of jobs, and I'm like, okay, what do I even want to do? So like, can you speak a little bit to you know, going in that order, what order you recommend, because a lot of the things that are listed are job titles, and there's a lot of different things I could even be wanting to do. So like, what order do you recommend? And
I'll jump in. I actually wanted to make a statement about this. A great networking question to ask someone is, if you just think they're in your field, is to help guide you about what that job title is that you'd even be capable of going for. Because I know that we receive so many resumes of people because the job sounds interesting and they're incredibly underqualified for it, which is fine. Like, oh, director of, you know, marketing. That sounds awesome. I studied marketing at Madison. Like, yeah, right? I mean, who wouldn't? And I think that's super helpful is to just get an understanding of if you're looking at ad agencies or PR agencies or that type of thing, find someone. Mariah's worked in PR, I've worked at agencies, that knows what title you should be looking at. And then within that, I think that's a really easy way to guide a search from a job title standpoint. Maybe that answers part of your question? Yeah.
And then I would say those job titles are usually coordinator. So coordinator of anything is a good place to start. That's an entry-level job. Assistant, perfect. You know, even internship, even if you just graduated, like you could still get an internship and that could be awesome and you could get another job from that. So, you know, think about, I would say at least in my industry, like, oh, associate, that's another one. So associate, coordinator, assistant, those are probably the top 3 things that are like entry-level titles, at least at what I've seen.
And if anyone, is anyone interested in the advertising agency world here? Plenty? Okay. There's a site, write this down, it's called The Creative Ham. It's the worst URL ever, right? But this is the forever incomplete list of ad agencies in a ton of different markets, and it's a great resource. And I use this in sales when we're trying to dig in and sort of find some new places where we haven't looked. Whoever runs the site, I don't know, this gets tweeted about, like they do amazing work, and that's a great job board too. So think about that.
Also, don't be afraid if you don't have a strategy. I mean, I didn't, and I'm really happy with where I am now, and I totally fell into the things that I did. And I'm still not sure that the job that I'm in is the one that, you know, I want to be in forever, or it might be. So I really think kind of, you know, along with this liberal arts education, you know, you can follow a lot of different paths to get to a place that you might have imagined or maybe not. So just kind of keep your mind open as well.
I agree with Mariah. There's no one good strategy. I think what you want to really focus on is sort of set up a rhythm for your life, right? If you have a good rhythm going, you know, maybe put something that's measurable, applying 2 jobs a day, right? So whichever way that happens, that's just the way it happens, right? So it could be you were playing Frisbee with someone and someone say, hey, I know someone in the Bay Area and they are hiring. Then you apply for, that's how you would do it, which is the people first way. And you know, because you have a rhythm, you check the career website every morning, right? So you look at it and you pick one of the jobs that interest you the most. And then one type of job that also, there's also for entry level, it's like rotational programs. I think a lot of companies have those. Intuit have those, GE have those. So anything that's like programs, right? Things like that you can look into. So don't stress out about the how per se. Focus on what you really want and sort of like build your life around that. And then, you know, don't stress the detail of which way one way or the other. It will work out, you know,
Yeah.
it has to.
I would also.
And life coach.
Yeah, CU is all of our life coaches. I would also say that another really good resource, you know, if you've done LinkedIn, you've applied online, you've done all that, you just come out for a weekend. You know someone that you can sleep on the floor for a weekend, and it's a college football weekend, and you go to Aces, which is our bar, and we're all there, and you meet, like it's the Wisconsin bar where they put up a Wisconsin flag and they bring in Miller Lite and everyone goes and watches games there. You will meet like 100 people there. Yeah. And that's honestly, that is like such a good career networking thing. You know, and maybe people are slightly intoxicated, but they'll talk to you for, a quarter, and you might have a job interview at the end of that. So
That's where magic happens.
I've met a ton of people through those
yeah,
games.
I've
It's
met
amazing.
so many people
Yeah.
at that bar.
I got an internship, I got an internship offered to me through a connection that I made at a Packers game, watching like the Packers-Giants game when I first moved out there. So it truly does happen, just like someone next to me, and she was like, oh, I work at MSL Schwartz.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it just, those things do happen all the time.
Yeah, a weekend might be too short. So, but if you don't have a job when you graduate, I would say I think follow their example, which is they went out there in San Francisco and just make it work.
All right, we're going to take one last one right over here.
Hi, I'm Noah Howland. I'm a senior political science and history major, born and raised in the city of San Francisco. And I was just wondering if you guys could kind of talk about the affordability of moving back. I really have no interest in moving back in with my mom. So
Yeah, you might have to do that actually.
to kind of move to the East Bay, or I don't really know, but could you guys speak
Live
to
in
that?
Oakland, that's the solution.
Yeah, I think when Katie and I moved up, and fortunately we share a bedroom, so it's affordable. But I think that was like one of the last windows when you could come out and the rent prices are very public. But I think back in 2008, you could still get a one-bedroom apartment for maybe $1,600. You could get a room in an apartment for, your jaw just dropped. Yeah. You could get a room, in a shared space for maybe a little under $1,000 now, and I mean you see that's like median rent's like $3,400. So that's a challenge, right? Craigslist is still your friend, and shared houses are still your friend. I think what you'll find is that the city has very strong rent control policies, so there are a lot of rooms that will be posted that are still grandfathered in. So there are gems out there, but if you think you're going to go out and live by yourself in the city, it's very unlikely on an entry-level salary.
And you're right, it is really expensive to live in San Francisco. But you know, if you can stay closer to your job and live outside and go to San Francisco on the weekend and still have a good quality life, right? The other thing too is, you know, staying with mom is not so bad for a little bit. 'Cause you can pay rent.
Yeah, dude, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, and then you can really focus on getting the job, and then, that reminds me of one thing I want to talk about before. Totally separate, but you know, important to know, which is, it's really hard to find friends once you graduate. Right? It's not easy.
It's
right?
true.
You just don't walk around and like meet people. Hey, would you like to, you know, grab coffee? It doesn't work that way, right? So make it your priority to sort of like have your social life sort of somewhat in order when you move, right? I'm not saying that life's gonna suck. I'm just saying that all I'm saying is Madison is not coming back.
It's not going to be as fun as college.
Right? That's your life back in the day, right? So once you get the same group of friends, then you have a lot of options. You can move in with them. In your case, right? If you don't mind sharing a bed, I mean, depending on the person.
Affordable.
Or a bedroom, right? So it can be affordable. But I'm just saying, don't let that one factor, I guess, affect you, right? But instead focus on the positive things, which is how do I build a good network of friends, right? People that I'm proud to be associated with. And then some of them might be good roommates, right? So.
And there are some great spots in Oakland. There's, you familiar with Alameda, which is another spot, which is an island off of Oakland. And I think like if anyone's interested in moving or thinking about that in the near future, these are, again, great networking questions to ask people about like, hey, would you mind giving me insight on neighborhoods? You know, I found a couple of rooms, and I think anyone has done that and failed at that miserably and ended up places they didn't want to be. And that's, anyone would help you.
Yeah, and your first apartment is not going to be your last. So just think of it like when I moved, I was living in another girl's bedroom, and I was like, I worked so hard to get out of that, like, because I was like, I can't do this. But yeah, there's other neighborhoods in San Francisco, like the Mission, where you can find some good stuff, in Soma, you know, and you can, like, I have a friend that has an $800 room, and that's, you know, a really good deal. So like she's gonna move out, like someone else is gonna come in and take that room. So I wouldn't say sign a lease. I would say get in on a sublet situation, and you can get it cheaper.
When I first moved out, I stayed with a bunch of break dancers.
Did you learn how to break dance?
No, I'm still a terrible dancer. But I know that they are not my type of people.
You are so quotable.
Yeah.
They're just too cool.
John, do you want to do one more, or like we can hang out? And...
Do you want to take one more?
We had the trivia.
Oh yeah, you want to do trivia, Mariah?
Yeah. Do you have any?
What was our other question? Oh, name a neighborhood in San Francisco. Go.
There we go.
This guy yelled it. Yep.
Yeah. Give him a shirt. All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, we want to thank these guys just for their time and their energy and coming back and helping us all out with their ideas. This has been fantastic. We're going to hang out for a while outside. There's a nice little reception that Diane and Wisconsin BBA has set up, so feel free to hang around, ask some more questions. But thanks a lot to our alums for coming back this evening.